At the will reading, my father stated that the penthouse and the Tesla would go to my brother, not me. I didn't blink. I didn't protest. I simply folded my hands neatly in my lap, met his eyes without hesitation, and said in a voice as calm as still water, "Keep it all." A few people in the room shifted uncomfortably. Somewhere near the back, someone let out a quiet, uncertain laugh, like they weren't sure they had heard me correctly. My brother leaned back in his chair, smiling. It wasn't cruel, not exactly. It was satisfied, like everything had finally aligned the way it always should have. My father gave a small nod, as if my reaction confirmed something he had believed about me for years. "She understands," he said, glancing toward the attorney. "She's always been independent." Independent. That was the word he chose. Not overlooked, not dismissed, not forgotten. Independent. I could feel every eye in that room pressing in on me. Extended family, neighbors, two of my father's business partners, and a couple of faces I didn't even recognize. They were all waiting for a reaction, for a crack, for something to break the stillness. But I had learned a long time ago how to remain steady when everything inside me was shifting. They thought I had just lost everything. They didn't realize I had already won. My father adjusted his tie, the same precise movement he had made my entire life whenever he felt in control. He glanced down at the document, then back at the attorney. "Well," he said casually, "that should settle everything." The attorney didn't respond immediately. He was an older man, mid-60s perhaps, thin, deliberate, with a voice that always sounded like it carried more meaning than it revealed. He turned a page, paused, then cleared his throat. "Mr. Whitaker," he said in a measured tone, "there is an additional document your father left behind." The atmosphere shifted. Not all at once, not dramatically, but enough. My brother's smile flickered, just slightly. My father frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked. The attorney adjusted his glasses. "A separate directive. It was filed independently and is to be read after the primary will." Silence followed. Not confusion, something deeper, something unsettled. I sat there, hands still folded, breathing even, because I knew, or at least I had a feeling, and for the first time that morning I let myself remember his voice. "You don't need their approval," my grandfather had told me once, "just become someone they can't ignore." I'm 35 years old, a commissioned officer in the United States Navy. I've spent most of my adult life away from this town, away from this house, away from these conversations that always seemed to circle around things I was never quite part of. My brother stayed. He built a business alongside my father, expanded it, made it successful. He was visible, present, easy to understand. I wasn't. When I left for the military, my father didn't stop me. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He just said, "If that's what you want." And that was it. No pride, no concern, just quiet acceptance, like I had chosen something temporary, something that would pass. It never did. My grandfather was the only one who ever asked me why. Not in a demanding way, not like he was testing me. He asked because he wanted to understand. We used to sit on his back porch in the late afternoons, when the sunlight softened everything. He would pour 2 glasses of iced tea, far too sweet for my taste, but I never complained, and we would talk. "You ever notice how people respect what they can see?" he said once. I nodded. "They see your brother's office, his car, his numbers. That makes sense to them." He tapped his glass lightly. "But service, that's harder. It doesn't show up the same way." I looked at him, trying to decide if he was warning me or encouraging me. "What if they never see it?" I asked. He smiled, small but certain. "Then make sure it's worth it anyway." The day I told my family I was enlisting, my brother laughed. Not harshly, just surprised. "You? You're serious?" My father didn't laugh. He leaned back, studying me like I was a problem he hadn't solved yet. "It's a hard life," he said. "I know." You'll be gone most of the time. I know. He nodded once, then looked past me toward the window. Well, it's your decision. That's when I realized something I didn't yet have words for. I wasn't stepping away from them. I had never really been standing where they were to begin with. My grandfather drove me to the recruiter's office. He didn't say much during the drive. When we arrived, he reached into his jacket and took out an old watch. It wasn't expensive, but it was clean, well cared for. This was mine, he said. Wore it for 30 years. I can't take that, I said. He placed it in my hand anyway. You're not taking it, you're carrying it. Why me? I asked. He looked at me steadily. Because you understand the difference. Years passed, deployments came and went, promotions too, earned quietly, the long way. I missed holidays, birthdays, gatherings that, from what I heard later, weren't much different without me. Sometimes I sent money home, not because they asked, just because it felt right. No one ever mentioned it. My father talked about my brother's business, his expansions, his plans. When he spoke about me, it was brief. He said, "She's doing fine." Fine. The last time I spoke to my grandfather, I was standing outside a base in Virginia, the wind sharp against the pavement. He sounded tired but clear. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I'm good, just busy." He chuckled softly. "Busy's a good thing." There was a pause. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I'm proud of you." I closed my eyes for a moment. "Thank you."
We talked a little longer. Nothing important, just small things. When the call ended, I told myself I would call him again in a few days. I didn't. By the time I did, it was too late. I didn't make it back for his funeral. Duty didn't allow it. That's what they say. As if it explains everything. A week later, I received a letter. Handwritten, short. Stand tall even when no one's watching. No signature, it didn't need one. Now I was back in that same town, sitting in a room filled with people who had never quite known what to do with me, listening to my father divide everything he believed mattered, and realizing he hadn't changed. Not really. But maybe he was about to. Because the attorney was still holding that second document, and for the first time in a long time, my father looked uncertain. I didn't move when the attorney lifted the paper. For a moment, no one did. It was a strange stillness, like something had shifted but hadn't settled yet. My father's hand rested flat on the table, fingers slightly spread, as if grounding himself. "What is that?" he asked. His voice wasn't sharp, it wasn't demanding, it was unfamiliar. The attorney glanced down, then back up. "This is a separate directive filed by your father. It is to be read in full without interruption." My brother exhaled lightly, trying to recover his earlier confidence. "Well," he said, "I guess Grandpa had one more thing to say." No one laughed. I watched the attorney's hands, slow, careful, deliberate. This mattered. My grandfather never rushed anything, not decisions, not conversations, not even silence. "Before I begin," the attorney said, "this directive establishes a trust and outlines specific responsibilities." "A trust?" my brother repeated. "Yes." "What kind?" my brother asked. The attorney began reading. "I, Thomas Whitaker, being of sound mind." The words were formal, structured, but beneath them there was something human. "This trust shall be known as the Whitaker Service Fund." A subtle shift moved through the room. "Its purpose is to provide financial support to veterans and their families." My throat tightened. "Especially those who have served without recognition or support." I understood. He never spoke about his service. He carried it quietly. "The management of this trust shall be granted to my granddaughter," the attorney paused, "Emily Whitaker." Every head turned. I didn't move. "This decision is made with full confidence in her judgment, character, and understanding of service." I closed my eyes briefly. "You don't need them to understand," my grandfather had once said. "You just need to understand yourself." "Along with the trust," the attorney continued, "there is a personal letter." My father shifted. "This is unnecessary," he said. The attorney ignored him and read, If you are hearing this, then I am gone, and if I know this family, there is already misunderstanding in the room. Silence. In my long life, I have watched each of you build your lives, some with numbers, some with presence, and one of you with sacrifice. Emily, you chose a path that does not always come with recognition. That is its nature. Something shifted inside me. Your family may not understand what you have given, not because they do not care, but because they measure differently. My father's jaw tightened. I leave you this responsibility not as a burden, but as acknowledgement. That word stayed. You have already proven you do not need more to carry. What you deserve is to be seen. The attorney lowered the paper. No one spoke. My brother exhaled. So what, she gets a charity? She receives full control of a funded trust, the attorney said calmly. How much? My father asked. Enough to matter. Silence again, but this time it wasn't empty. I looked at my hands, then at the watch on my wrist, still ticking, still steady. I hadn't just been given something, I had been recognized. The room didn't recover quickly. People processed it differently, some confused, some calculating. My father kept looking at me, not angry, not disappointed, something else. The attorney gathered the papers. We will proceed with the transfer in the coming weeks. I have a question, said my brother. Where is the money coming from? Private holdings, investments, land, long-term accounts. That's not possible, my brother said. You reviewed the primary estate, the attorney replied. This was separate. That's when he realized there was something he was never part of. People left in small groups, quietly. A few stopped me. Congratulations, one said, though it didn't sound certain. Thank you, I replied. Outside, the air felt different. My brother joined me. That was unexpected. It was. You knew? No. But you weren't surprised. I wasn't. Why you? You'd have to ask him. He exhaled. Guess I can't. I walked to my car. The drive back passed familiar places, the grocery store, the gas station, the park. I stopped once, not because I had to, because I wanted to. The watch caught the light. Still working, still steady. Military life isn't what people think. It's routine, responsibility, quiet work no one sees. But there are moments when someone recognizes how you carry yourself. Those matter. My family never saw those moments, but my grandfather did. I drove to a quiet field and sat on a bench. For the first time that day, I exhaled fully. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about proving them wrong. Something quieter had changed, something permanent. I took out the letter again. Emily, it began. You may not realize it, but your life has already shaped more people than you know. I paused. There will be times when it feels like no one is watching. The wind moved across the field. But impact is not always visible. I folded the letter slowly. It wasn't about what I had been given. It was about what I would do with it. I didn't go back to the house that night. Instead, I checked into a small hotel off the highway. Simple, quiet, familiar. I sat on the edge of the bed in my uniform. The silence wasn't heavy. It was honest. In the military, you learn that kind of quiet. You learn which thoughts matter. That night, only one stayed. You don't need anything from us. I used to think it meant distance. Now I understood. It meant he didn't know how to reach me. The next morning, I went to my grandfather's house. Smaller than I remembered, or maybe clearer. I sat on the back porch, the same chair, the same quiet. I figured you'd come here. I turned. My father stood at the edge of the yard. I wasn't sure you would, I said. I wasn't sure either. I didn't know about the trust, he said. I know. He never told me. He didn't tell a lot of people. He stepped closer. I thought I understood him. Silence. I thought I understood you, too. I looked at him. You didn't think I needed anything. There it is again, I said. Then why does this feel like I missed something? Because you did. He didn't argue. I gave your brother what I thought mattered. I know. And you chose something else. Yes. I didn't know how to measure it. You weren't supposed to. Then what was I supposed to do? Ask. Silence. I thought giving you space was respect. It can be, not when it replaces understanding. He nodded slowly. I watched your brother build something I could see, and I watched you leave. That's what it looked like, but I never asked where you were going. That was it. Not dramatic, just clear. What did you need? He asked. I met his eyes. To be seen. He nodded. I see you now. I didn't respond. That comes with time. What will you do with it? He asked. I'm going to use it. For the first time, that answer felt like mine. The paperwork started the following week. Meetings, signatures, quiet work. The attorney explained everything carefully. This was built over years, he said. 10 years. My grandfather had planned it long before anyone knew. This isn't just money, the attorney said. It's a mission. I understood. The fund supported veterans transitioning back. Housing, jobs, stability. Nothing flashy, just real help. He was clear about one thing, the attorney said. It should never become performative. That sounded exactly like him. We visited one of the properties. Inside, veterans sat quietly. Ma'am? One said. Morning, I replied. One man approached me. This place helps, he said. How? Gives you somewhere to land. That stayed with me. Somewhere to land. The signing was simple. No audience, just a pen, a name, and responsibility. This isn't something you finish, the attorney said. It's something you continue. I know. That evening, I returned to the house. My father was there. How did it go? He asked. Good. What is it exactly? It's support, I said, for people who don't always have it. He nodded. That's a lot of responsibility. It is. I thought I was building something solid, he said. You were, but he built something lasting. I nodded. There's a difference. The first real decision didn't come in a meeting. It came in a phone call. Late Thursday afternoon. Unknown number. This is Whitaker, I said. A pause. Ma'am, my name is Daniel Ruiz. I was given your number through the fund. Yes? How can I help? I'm not sure, he said honestly. I was told you might be able to point me in the right direction. We spoke for about 15 minutes. Former Army, recently discharged, no stable housing, a job starting in 3 weeks. He wasn't asking for much, just time. I've got a place I can stay for a couple nights, he said. After that, I'm not sure. I looked out across the parking lot, thought about the building we'd visited, the empty room I'd noticed near the back. You're in town? I asked. Yes, ma'am. Come by tomorrow morning, I said. 9 o'clock. Another pause. Are you sure? He asked. Yes. His voice softened slightly. Thank you. After the call ended, I stayed where I was for a moment, not thinking about policy, not thinking about structure, just thinking about him. This was what my grandfather had built. Not a concept, not an idea, a place where someone could call and not be turned away. The next morning, I arrived early, old habit. I walked through the building, checking things, not because I didn't trust the people there, but because I needed to understand how it felt when it was quiet, when it wasn't performing for anyone. Daniel arrived at 8:57. I noticed that. Clean clothes, worn boots, carried himself straight, but with that same quiet tension I'd seen before. He hesitated slightly at the door. I walked over. Mr. Ruiz? He nodded. Yes, ma'am. Come on in. We sat down at a small table near the window. No paperwork yet, no forms, just conversation. Tell me what you need, I said. He took a breath. Just somewhere to stay, he said. A couple weeks. I've got a job starting soon. I just need to get there. I nodded. You will. He looked at me, unsure. You don't know that, he said. I met his gaze. Yes, I said. I do. We got him set up in less than an hour. Temporary housing, access to meals, A small stipend to bridge the gap. Nothing excessive, everything necessary. As he was leaving the office, he paused, turned back. "I appreciate this," he said. "You don't owe us anything," I replied. He shook his head slightly. "Still," he said, "it matters." After he left, I stood by the window for a while, watching him walk across the lot, shoulders a little lighter, steps a little more certain. That was the moment it became real. Not the signing, not the documents. This. Later that afternoon, my brother called. I hadn't expected that. I answered anyway. "Hey," he said. "Hey." A pause. "I've been thinking," he added. I figured. He let out a small breath. "About everything. The will, the trust, all of it." I didn't interrupt.
"I didn't realize how much he had set aside," he said. "He planned ahead," I replied. "Yeah," he said. "He did." Another pause. "I got the penthouse," he finally, "and the Tesla." "Yes, it's a lot," he said. "It is, but it doesn't feel the way I thought it would." I didn't answer right away, because I knew that feeling. "What does it feel like?" I asked. He hesitated. "Like, I got what I wanted," he said, but not what he meant. That was honest, more honest than I expected. "He didn't choose against you," I said. "I know," he replied quickly. I think I know. "He chose based on what he believed each of us needed," I added. There was a long silence on the line. "I don't know if I needed this," my brother said. "You might," I said, "or you might learn something from it." He gave a quiet laugh. "That sounds like something he would have said." "It does," I agreed. Another pause. "Then what you're doing with that fund," he said, "that's different." "It is. I went by the building yesterday," he admitted. I raised an eyebrow slightly. "You did?" "Yeah, I didn't go in, just looked." "And?" I asked. "I didn't understand it," he said, "but I could tell it mattered. That was enough." "You're welcome to come by," I said. He didn't answer right away. "Maybe I will," he said finally. When the call ended, I set the phone down slowly. Things don't change all at once. Not people, not families, but sometimes they start. That evening, I sat down at my desk in the small office at the center, the same one my grandfather had used. Simple, clean, functional. I opened a new folder, labeled it, not with my name, with the funds, because this wasn't about me, not really. It was about continuing something that had already begun, and for the first time I understood what winning actually meant. The first letter came 3 weeks later. Not an official report, not a document, just a handwritten note folded neatly and left on my desk. I recognized the handwriting before I even opened it. Danielle Ruiz. "Ma'am, I started the job this week. It's nothing fancy, warehouse work, early hours, but it's steady. I just wanted to say thank you, not just for the place to stay, for not making me feel like I had to explain everything. That mattered more than I expected. Ruiz." I read it twice. Then I set it down gently, not because it was fragile, but because it meant something. People don't always remember what you give them, but they remember how you make them feel while they're receiving it. My grandfather understood that. He never gave in a way that made you feel small. He gave in a way that made you feel steady. By the end of the month, we had helped 7 more. Not dramatic cases, not headlines, just people in between chapters. A place to land, time to reset, a quiet hand forward. Words spread the way things like that always do. Slowly, through conversations, through trust. One afternoon, a local reporter stopped by. Young, polite, curious. "I heard about the fund," she said. "Would you be willing to talk about it?" I considered that, not because I didn't want to, but because I knew what my grandfather would have said. "Keep it about the people it helps," I replied.
She nodded. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." The article ran the following Sunday. Simple, respectful, focused. It mentioned the fund, the purpose, a few anonymous stories, and at the end, my name. I didn't think much of it. until my father called. "I saw the paper," he said. "Yeah?" "Yes." A pause. "They used your name." "They did." Another pause. "I didn't know you were doing all of that," he said. I leaned back slightly in my chair. "That's kind of the point," I said. He didn't answer right away. "I showed it to a few people," he said. That caught my attention. "You did?" "Yes." Another pause. "I told them you were my daughter." The words landed quietly, but they stayed. "That's the first time you've said it like that," I said. "I know," he replied. There was no defense in his voice, no justification, just acknowledgement. "I should have said it sooner," he added. I looked down at the desk, at the letter still resting there. "You can say it now," I said. He exhaled softly. "I'm proud of you," he said. The room didn't change. Nothing around me shifted, but something inside me did. Not sharply, not dramatically, just settled. "Thank you," I said. We stayed on the line for a moment longer, not talking, just there. When the call ended, I sat there quietly, the same way I had so many times before. But this time, the silence felt different. Not like something missing, like something complete. A few days later, my brother showed up. No announcement, no call ahead, just walked through the door of the center looking slightly out of place. "I figured I'd come see it," he said. I nodded. "Good." He walked slowly through the space, taking it in. The chairs, the desks, the people. "This is what you do now?" he asked. "This is part of it," I said. He nodded. "I always thought success looked different," he admitted. "It usually does," I said. We stopped near the window, the same one I had stood by weeks earlier. "I used to think you left," he said. I glanced at him. "I didn't leave," I said. "I just went somewhere you weren't looking." He let out a quiet breath. "Yeah," he said. "I see that now." We stood there for a while, not fixing anything, not rewriting the past, just understanding it better. That evening, after everyone had gone, I stayed behind. The building was quiet again, the way I preferred it. I sat at the desk, opened my grandfather's letter one more time. Recognition is not always immediate. I smiled slightly. "No," I said quietly, "it isn't." I folded the letter carefully, placed it back where it belonged. Then I looked around the room, at what had been built, at what was continuing. Some people leave money, some leave property, some leave things that can be counted, measured, divided, but some leave direction, a way forward. And sometimes that's the only inheritance that truly lasts. If this story reminded you of someone who quietly carried more than anyone ever noticed, take a moment, reach out, tell them you see them, because sometimes that's all it takes to change everything.